This demand to sit down with legacy media, with mainstream media, do a real interview with an interviewer who's really going to ask tough questions. This is the constant refrain in relation to Kamala Harris. I find it to be laughable on some level because Trump is never doing that stuff. He blanched from the notion of going and actually sitting down with 60 Minutes. He'd said he was going to do it, and then he didn't. Where does he show up? All you hear about on his stump is, I sit down for interviews all the time. She won't do any of them. Dude, you sit down for interviews all the time with Sean Hannity and what's her name? The woman at night, Laura something, Ingram. Yeah, I mean, those are the people you said with Jesse Waters. You sit down for an interview, okay?
Didn't he walked out of a Leslie Stahl interview at 60 Minutes?
That was in 2020. That's right, when she got it all tough on him.
Yeah.
And now he's saying, until I get an apology for how I was treated by 60 Minutes, there are all these sort of shifting reasons that he didn't do 60 Minutes. We'll play you a little bit of what 60 Minutes said about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the problem with 60 Minutes for Trump. And we saw it last night with the interview with 60 Minutes that Vice President Harris did. They hold your feet to the fire. If they ask you a question and you don't answer it, they circle back around and they say, you didn't answer the question. And they'll do it until you answer the question. It's serious. And so he can't handle that. He can't handle anyone being tough with him. He wants people to throw rose petals at his feet. He doesn't want to answer the real tough questions. He can't do it.
Yeah,
so of course he's not
exactly
going.
Right. That's exactly right. So here is Kamala Harris. She did sit down with 60 Minutes, and they did hold her feet to the fire a bit.
No, I'm just how annoying that he has to talk over her like that.
Well, this is the thing, and I'll make a general point now about the way that interviews are packaged. When you sit down for 60 Minutes interview or with even a local news interview, whatever it might be, any kind of network interview where it's taped and recorded, they will call the sit down for those pieces that they want, and then they will add track, as it's called, right? The voiceover that sort of summarizes whatever the person's saying. The problem with that is that oftentimes you as the interviewee can say things more effectively and perhaps more accurately than the summary or the track would suggest. And this is kind of what you're saying, Kim, that, hey, let her fill it out. You can see the unedited interview typically, even with 60 Minutes. They usually post it sometime later on their CBS website or on the 60, or even on YouTube. It'll show up on their channel. But in this case, they have 15 minutes for the interview or 20 minutes for the interview, and so they need to summarize, and that's the way they do it. So if you said, and a lot of people do this, I've been part of these negotiations before, I'll only be part of an interview if it's live.
Yeah.
Many people say that. Many politicians say that. Many high-profile luminaries of all sort say, if you'll interview me live, I'll do the interview. But I won't sit down for an interview that will be edited. And one of the reasons is that to which you've referred, Kim.
People are watching it because they want to hear her words and her answers. They don't want to hear that 60 Minutes summarize her answers, because we can get that from any news channel. What a news story of the day. We're tuning in, we're watching it because we want to hear her words, not his words.
Yeah. Again, she's asked to comment on how would you solve these intractable issues. How would you, so the immigration problem, it's a worldwide issue and every country is struggling with it. And as you know, the borders have been open here for quite some time. How would you solve the whole immigration crisis? Well, it's a very big problem, and it's one that neither party has solved. And it's been used as a political pawn in this entire process of gaining political power. So it's tough. But to be fair, those are the kinds of questions you have to answer if you want to be president. Now, Trump doesn't have to answer them. Of course, his thing is, I'm going to deport them, and he doesn't really have a plan for deportation. It's just, he's just talking. And in my judgment, the media really gives him a pass. He doesn't sit down for these kinds of tough interviews. No Contendo says, interviewer acting like the House is going to stay red. Yeah, well, this is the question. and it's interesting. Let's assume the House does stay red. The thing that she pointed to, which I actually liked in her answer, is, hey, she didn't say it this way, but this is the truth. This is what she's saying. This is a political winner for both parties. I mean, coming out against price gouging, what is Democratic or Republican about that? Yeah. It's not a red-blue issue. You should be able to get a coalition on that. You should. Now, whether or not you should and whether or not you will are two different things, but you should be able to say that. That is what she was saying. She said she didn't quite say it in those words. She did say something which I thought was good, which is, hey, I've been on Capitol Hill, and believe me, quietly the conversation is my constituency would like that. So I thought that was a pretty good answer.
Do you think if Trump loses this election, that he'll still somehow be able to pull the strings of Republicans that are sitting in Congress?
Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. If Trump loses, you haven't seen the kind of retreat that you're going to see from the Republican Party from Trump. I mean, they thought he was done once after the coup attempt. Remember? Mm-hmm. Kevin McCarthy on the floor of the House, Mitch McConnell on the floor of the Senate. They were all talking about the fact that Trump was the reason that the January 6th incident happened and that we've had enough of this. Lindsey Graham turned on him. And then when it was clear that America hadn't, this portion of America that loves him, they all came back. And then they went to Mar-a-Lago, and McCarthy went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss his ring, etc. So there's
always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
Okay, mm-hmm. and you add a little bit to those percentages, and you could have a guy who wins the presidency again. Trump speaks in generalities and says it's going to be great when I get in. You won't believe how great it is. You won't believe how it'll be great for women. Women won't have any cares anymore. This whole idea, I'll be a friend to women. I'll be a friend to veterans. I'll be a friend to everyone. The economy will be pumping again, even though, as you know, the economy was in real trouble when he left. Again, even pre-COVID, this economy is better than that. But anyway, to the point, he just makes these generalities. You'll get a tax cut. We won't tax your tips. We won't tax your overtime, whatever he may say. So he speaks in the stuff. He just is kind of throwing out little morsels, but there are no specifics. It's all generalities, and it's rah, 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 and mostly it's dumping on the left. So that's really what he does in those rallies. And then it's a lot about his personal grievances. So it's not exclusively about his personal grievances and about him. Found the moment at which Donald Trump walked out of the Leslie Stahl interview when it was the last time he sat down with 60 Minutes. Go ahead, Tony. Play a little bit of that. What's great about that is it reminds me that he never really did sit down for a 60 Minutes interview. He sat down for it, but it never really happened. I'd forgotten that.
Imagine being upset because they said, "Are you ready for tough questions?"
Yeah, I thought that's
what touches you off.
I thought that was actually her being kind of warming him up. You know what I mean? You ready for tough questions? You know what I mean? It's sort of like, hey, buddy. I thought it was that familiarity that she was trying to play off of. I was surprised that it caused it.
Doesn't it make him seem unreasonable?
Yeah.
Like someone who flies off the handle at just random things?
Well, he likes interviewers who like him, and he's the one, of course, who favors softball situations. That's why he shows up on Fox and Friends. Yeah. I just went down the whole list for you. You'll see, and you'll usually hear him because he calls into Fox and Friends, and they'll give him a wide berth, and he'll get his normal rub down, and he'll just, filibuster on Fox and Friends, okay? Then he may show up on Jesse Waters, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, all these other places, and any other place in which he has a friendly port. That's what he does. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.